You've been performing your whole life. Maybe you didn't mean to. Maybe you didn't even notice when it started, but somewhere along the way, you stopped living for yourself and started living for their approval. You feel it before you speak. That knot in your stomach, that silent rehearsal in your head. Not because you want to be clear, but because you're terrified of being wrong. You walk into rooms scanning for signs. Will they like me? Will they respect me? Will they see me the way I need to be seen? Every smile, every glance, every raised eyebrow. It's all data you collect and weigh before you dare to be yourself. And you've gotten so good at it, you don't even know who yourself is anymore. You've built this perfect mask, polished, safe, agreeable, and it's killing you quietly. Because here's the truth no one told you. The fear of judgment isn't just stealing your confidence, it's stealing your life. You've been trained for this since you were a child, to sit just right, to speak just enough, to keep your edges smoothed down so no one cuts themselves on your truth. But here's what no one tells you. The version of you they like isn't you at all. It's a mask, built over years, layer by careful layer, made of swallowed words and bent spines. Made of yes when you wanted to scream no, made of laughter that didn't belong to you. And it's heavy, isn't it? You smile while carrying it. You work while carrying it. You dream while carrying it. Until you start to forget what your face looked like before it was built. You call it politeness, maturity, professionalism. But the truth? It's fear, the quiet kind that doesn't stop you with a scream. It stops you with a hand on your shoulder whispering, careful. Careful not to say the wrong thing. Careful not to wear the wrong thing. Careful not to show too much, want too much, dare too much. Careful until careful becomes your cage. And here's the part that should keep you up tonight. The people whose judgment you fear, they're too busy fearing your judgment to even notice you're performing. You're all in the same play, each thinking the audience is here for them, each forgetting no one bought a ticket. So why do you still bow to them? Why do you still rehearse lines for a show that isn't real? Somewhere under all that pretending, there's a moment, a single, dangerous moment, where you decide to stop, and that's where the crack in the mask begins. It's not the loud fears that control you. It's the quiet ones, the ones that don't even feel like fear anymore. They've lived in you so long you've mistaken them for your own voice. You hesitate before speaking, not because you don't know the words, but because you run them through an invisible filter, polishing them down until they're safe, safe enough to be ignored, safe enough to disappear. You change outfits in front of the mirror, not to feel good, but to feel unnoticeable, the perfect camouflage in a world that punishes difference. And you think this is harmless, but every time you bite your tongue, every time you choose quiet over truth, a small piece of you dies, not all at once, but in the slow erosion that leaves you wondering why you feel so hollow. The chains aren't in your hands, they're in your habits, your reflex to shrink, your instinct to hide, your need to be seen without being truly seen. Here's the worst part. You think it's working, you think your carefulness is protecting you, but it's only protecting the version of you that doesn't really exist. The real you is starving behind the glass. If you're still here, that says something. Most people would have clicked away by now. Most people can't sit with the discomfort of realizing they're living someone else's life. But maybe you can. Maybe that's why you found this. Maybe that's why you stayed. So, hit the subscribe button if you already haven't. Because on this channel, we dissect important topics like this to raise your confidence, self-discipline, and personal development. And here's the question you can't escape. If the people you fear aren't even watching you, then who exactly are you performing for? There's a mirror in your life you haven't looked into for years, not the one in your bathroom, not the one that tells you if your hair is right or your tie is straight. I'm talking about the mirror that shows you who you've become, the one you keep in the back of your mind, face down, because you're not ready to see it yet. You know the moment I mean. That split-second flash when you're alone, no distractions, no noise, and a question rises from somewhere deep. Is this really me? You bury it quickly, because the answer isn't a gentle one. You've been curating your life like a storefront, arranging the display so it looks right from the street, making sure no one sees the mess in the back room. The unmade bed, the unread books, the quiet desperation you keep dressing in productivity. And you tell yourself you're fine. You tell yourself everyone does this, and maybe that's true. But everyone's sickness doesn't make it health. Fear of judgment doesn't just control your actions, it edits your identity. Every opinion you swallow, every desire you mute, every part of yourself you trade for belonging. These are the traits that make you unrecognizable to yourself. The Stoics warned about this long before Instagram existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about that. You'll ignore your own inner voice to please someone whose name you might forget in a week. You'll abandon your own path for applause you can't even hear. And here's the cruel trick. Sometimes the people whose judgment you fear the most, they're not even in the room anymore. It's your old teacher, your father, the friend who once laughed at you in front of others. They've moved on, but their voice still lives rent-free in your head, and you've been paying the price every day. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle self-disgust when you walk away from a conversation knowing you didn't say what you wanted to say. That tightness in your throat when you replay the moment and imagine what it would have been like if you stood your ground. And then the cold realization. You weren't afraid of them. You were afraid of who you'd be without their approval. This is the mirror you avoid. The reflection that doesn't care how well you've blended in. It doesn't care about the mask or the smile or the polite small talk. It cares about whether you've lived as yourself or as the version of you they told you was acceptable. So, tell me, if you stripped away every borrowed opinion, every learned hesitation, every performance, would you even recognize the face staring back at you? Epictetus didn't care if you thought he was a fool. He said it plainly. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. To him, public opinion was a gust of wind, loud, forceful, but gone in seconds. Seneca saw the same storm. He said we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And isn't that what fear of judgment really is? An imagined trial where we invent the charges, write the verdict, and sentence ourselves before the crowd even speaks. The Stoics didn't live in a quiet world. They lived in marketplaces, courts, and councils, where a single rumor could ruin a man's life. And yet they trained themselves to walk through that noise without bowing. They knew something we keep forgetting. The crowd is never consistent. Today they'll cheer you. Tomorrow they'll spit at you. And the day after that they'll forget your name. But here's the trap. We're not just afraid of the crowd's anger. We're addicted to their praise. We think applause is proof we're on the right path. But applause is just as dangerous as mockery. It keeps you tethered to an audience that doesn't even know your full story. You've felt it before, haven't you? That rush when someone likes what you did, that crash when they don't, and slowly, without noticing, your compass starts pointing toward whatever earns their approval, not toward what feels true, not toward what is right. The Stoics would tell you, your compass is broken if it's held in someone else's hands. They would say, what matters is not what they think of you, but whether you are living in harmony with nature, with reason, with virtue, not popularity, not validation, not the illusion of fitting in. So here's the choice that keeps staring you down. Do you want to be owned by the crowd's noise, or do you want the kind of silence that comes from knowing you're living by your own measure? Because you can't have both, and the moment you try, you lose them both. Freedom doesn't come from thinking differently. It comes from acting differently. And action, real action, will always be uncomfortable at first. You want to stop caring what people think? You have to walk into the fire on purpose. You have to make choices that trigger the voice in your head that says, they're going to notice, they're going to judge. And then you have to let them wear the thing you've avoided wearing. Because it's too much. Say the truth you've been watering down for months. Admit you don't agree when everyone else nods in unison. Do it without apology. Do it without softening your edges, and watch what happens at first. The heat will be unbearable. You'll feel exposed, like every eye is locked on you. Your chest will tighten, your breath will shorten, every instinct will scream, go back, go back, go back. But here's the secret. That's not danger. That's detox. That's the fear burning itself out. The first time you do it, you'll think you've made a mistake. The second time, you'll start to notice the fire isn't killing you. The third time, you'll start to wonder what else you've been wrong about. Because the moment you realize judgment can't break you, you start to understand it never could. It was only ever a ghost you mistook for a wall. The Stoics would train in public ridicule. They'd wear worn-out clothes, speak unpopular truths, take the seat no one wanted, not because they enjoyed discomfort, but because they knew comfort was a leash, and a leash, no matter how soft, still pulls tight. So here's your test. Not next month, not next week, today. Do one thing you've been avoiding because of how it might look, and when the fear comes, don't push it away. Let it stand in front of you. Stare at it until it blinks first, because each time you do, the cage gets weaker, and one day you'll wake up and realize the door was never locked. There's a moment when silence stops being wise and starts being a wound. At first, it's small, a skipped word here, a changed sentence there, a smile when you wanted to frown. You tell yourself it's nothing, that it's not worth the fight, that you're choosing peace, but real peace doesn't rot you from the inside. Real peace doesn't leave you lying awake replaying all the things you didn't say. Real peace doesn't leave your chest heavy with words that feel like they might claw their way out in your sleep. The truth is, every time you betray what you know to be right, every time you shrink so someone else can stand taller, every time you mute your own voice to avoid a ripple, you're cutting away a piece of yourself, small enough you think you won't notice, but you do. In the way your laughter feels thinner, in the way your reflection feels less familiar, in the way your dreams feel like they belong to someone else, you start carrying dead words inside you. Conversations that never happened, arguments you never voiced, boundaries you never set, and these dead words weigh more than any criticism could. The Stoics would tell you that to live in harmony with virtue, you must speak truth as you see it, not with cruelty, not with recklessness, but with the calm certainty that your worth doesn't depend on agreement. Because every time you trade truth for approval, you're not protecting the peace, you're protecting the prison. You've felt it, haven't you? That sick twist in your stomach when you nod along to something you don't believe. The heat in your face when someone crosses a line and you say nothing. And then the quiet, crushing shame afterward. The one that says, this is not who you were meant to be. You can live that way for years, and many do, but it will cost you. It will cost you the one thing you can't buy back, your own respect. And once you lose that, it doesn't matter how much the crowd loves you, you won't believe them. Because deep down, you know they don't even love the real you. There comes a day when you just get tired, not physically. That's easy. I mean soul tired. The kind of tired where you can't stand the sound of your own excuses anymore, where even your reflection looks like it's calling you out. I remember the moment it hit me. I was standing in a room full of people, smiling, laughing, nodding along. And in the middle of someone's story, I realized, I don't even want to be here, not in the room, not in this version of my life, not in this skin that's been shaped more by fear than by choice. That's the thing about living for approval. You think you're being smart, you think you're avoiding pain, but the real pain is realizing you've never actually lived, you've just adapted. The Stoics didn't dance around this truth. Epictetus said, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. And when I read that the first time, I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt impossible. Be content with people thinking I'm wrong? That's basically my nightmare. But the more I sat with it, the more I saw what he meant. Freedom isn't found in perfect approval. It's found in finally being okay with losing it. And maybe that's why you're here. Maybe you're tired too. Maybe you've been carrying a version of yourself you've outgrown. Maybe you've started to wonder if the people who love you even love you. If that's you, this is the point where we start building a different way forward. Not a life without judgment, but a life where judgment loses its grip. Because here's the quiet truth the Stoics lived by. Other people's opinions can't chain you unless you hand them the key. And if you've been feeling that pull, if you've been nodding along in your head as you've listened so far, stick with me and subscribe to this channel. We're about to break down the actual escape plan, step by step. So this doesn't just stay a nice idea in a video, it becomes something you actually live. The first thing you need to know is this. There's no magic switch. No, one morning I woke up and didn't care what anyone thought moment. It's a slow unhooking, like untangling a necklace that's been in your drawer for years. The Stoics started with awareness. They didn't just bulldoze through fear. They studied it. They watched it in real time, like a scientist examining a rare insect. And here's how you can do the same. Step 1. Catch the thought in the act. Every time you hesitate, every time you choose the safe answer, every time you shrink your idea down until it fits in someone else's comfort zone, pause. Ask yourself, if no one ever found out I did this, would I still do it? That one question alone can expose just how much judgment is steering the wheel. Step 2. Separate opinion from reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And that includes outside opinions. When someone disapproves of you, that's not reality collapsing. That's just a sound wave in the air carrying their personal taste. It's no more binding than a cloud drifting by. Step 3. Choose discomfort on purpose. This one hurts, because it means inviting the thing you've been avoiding your whole life. Post the opinion you've been watering down, or the outfit you don't think you can pull off. Speak up in the meeting even if your voice shakes. Do it not to rebel, but to train your brain to see that nothing catastrophic happens. Step 4. Anchor to your own verdict. If you don't have an internal compass, you'll always borrow someone else's. So write down your own measures of success. Not did they like it, but was it honest? Was it aligned? Was it necessary? That's the scoreboard that actually matters. The Stoics didn't want to make you reckless. They wanted to make you unshakable. And the truth is, the people who live freely, not carelessly, but freely, they still get judged, they still get misunderstood, they just don't rent out space in their minds to every passing opinion. And the more you practice this, the more you'll realize fear of judgment isn't a prison you have to break out of in one night. It's a lock that rusts away every time you stop feeding it. Here's the funny thing about fear of judgment. It's not loud and dramatic. It's not always the public speaking or the giant leap into the unknown. Most of the time, it's microscopic. It's hiding in the everyday moments, like dust in the corners you never sweep. You want to test indifference? Don't wait for the big stage. Start with your morning. You pick up your phone and see a post from a friend who seems to be doing better. That sinking feeling? That's judgment in disguise. Not theirs, but yours, the judgment you've absorbed from a lifetime of comparing. Here's the Stoic move. Notice the feeling, name it, and let it pass without chasing it. You tell yourself, this is just a thought, not the truth. Or maybe you're in a meeting, you've got a decent idea, but you hesitate because you're picturing how that one coworker, you know the one, will roll their eyes. The Stoic move? Say it anyway, not to win the room, but to prove to yourself that their eye roll is not the measure of your worth. Even in something as tiny as ordering food, some of us will stick to safe choices because we're afraid of the waiter, thinking we're extra for customizing. Practice here. Order what you actually want, not what feels socially invisible. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant by living according to nature, not pretending to be invisible, not bending yourself into a shape that gets the least reaction, but moving through the day as the truest version of yourself you can stand to be. It's repetition, like going to the gym, except instead of training muscles, you're training your tolerance for being seen. And yes, sometimes being misunderstood. Over time, these tiny acts stack up. You find yourself less reactive, less dependent on nods and approvals, more anchored in your own verdict. Because indifference isn't about not caring at all. It's about caring selectively. You stop caring about the noise, so you can pour everything into the signals that actually matter. The thing about judgment is, sometimes it's not even imaginary. Sometimes people really do talk. They really do have opinions about you, and they're not always wrapped in kindness. You hear a snide comment, a sarcastic laugh, or someone straight up tells you they think your idea is stupid, and in that moment, it's like your body forgets you're in the 21st century. It reacts like you've just been exiled from the tribe, heart pounding, face burning, mind racing. This is where most of us crumble. We take the words, tattoo them into our self-image, and carry them around like some twisted badge of truth. But here's what the Stoics did differently. They built a mental filter. Epictetus would ask, is this within my control? If the answer was no, he refused to let it set the tone for his day. The judgment might still land, but it wouldn't plant roots. Now here's the uncomfortable twist. Sometimes criticism hides a gift. I know, it sounds like something your overly positive aunt would say after you failed a test. But hear me out. Not all judgment is poison. Some of it is medicine, the bitter kind, the kind you'd rather spit out, but still medicine. Think about it. If a stranger says you can't, right? Maybe it means nothing. But if 3 different people you respect tell you your writing is unclear, that's not just noise, that's a signal. And the Stoic approach is to take that signal seriously, without letting it own you. It's the difference between saying, "They hate me," and saying, "They see something I can improve." The first statement kills your courage. The second fuels it, because now you've got a target to aim at, and you're no longer running from judgment. You're using it as free training. This is how you break the invisible chokehold fear has on your life. You stop treating judgment as a verdict and start treating it as raw data. Some of it useful, some of it irrelevant, but none of it capable of defining you without your consent. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if someone points out a flaw in your thinking, you should change your mind without shame, because truth, not ego, is the real goal. That's power, not the fragile, defensive kind, but the unshakable kind, the kind that can stand in a room full of critics and still know exactly who you are. So here's the challenge. The next time someone criticizes you, don't rush to defend yourself. Don't scramble to prove them wrong. Just pause. Ask, is this useful? If yes, thank them. If no, let it drift away like smoke. Do that enough times, and you'll find yourself strangely calm in situations that used to send you spiraling, not because people stopped judging, but because you stopped handing them the keys to your mood. The truth is, you don't stop fearing judgment in a week. You don't watch one YouTube video, journal twice, and suddenly walk through life like some Zen monk on caffeine. Fear is sticky. It's been with you for years. It's been reinforced by family, school, friends, strangers, and even the quiet little voice you hear when you're alone. So this isn't a quick escape. It's a slow rewiring, a long game, where you stop waiting for the world to be less judgmental and instead make your mind less penetrable. Think of your inner world like a castle when you're young or untrained. The gates are wide open. Anyone with an opinion can walk right in. Some set up camp. Others leave graffiti on the walls. Some steal your confidence and leave before you even notice it's gone. But over time, if you're intentional, you start building walls, not to shut the world out, but to make sure you control who gets in. You install filters, you train guards, you create secret gardens inside where no one's words can reach. The Stoics understood this perfectly. They called it cultivating the inner citadel, a mental fortress no insult, rumor, or criticism could breach. Marcus Aurelius spent his life as emperor being judged by millions, and yet he wrote about the inner citadel like it was his daily workout, because he knew power outside means nothing if you're weak inside. But here's the thing about immunity. You build it by exposure, not avoidance. If you hide from situations where people might judge you, your tolerance never grows. You stay hypersensitive, like someone who never leaves their house because they're afraid of catching a cold. So you have to step into the spaces that scare you, speak up in the meeting, post your ideas online, ask the question everyone's too shy to ask, and when the judgment comes, you let it hit, not to crush you, but to train you. The first few times, it'll sting. Your body will still react like you've been socially exiled. But you remind yourself, this is practice, this is part of the long game. Like lifting weights, every rep makes you harder to shake. Over months and years, something subtle shifts. You stop bracing for judgment before it happens. You stop replaying every awkward comment you made 3 days ago. You stop being afraid of the raised eyebrow or the unimpressed shrug. Because now, your worth isn't decided in those moments. It's decided in the quiet space inside your citadel, and only you hold the key. The long game isn't about never caring. It's about caring selectively. It's about choosing when to let someone's opinion matter and letting everything else bounce off like rain on stone. One day, you'll wake up and realize you're still being judged, still being misunderstood, still being talked about, but it feels distant, like the faint hum of traffic outside your window. It's there, but it no longer drowns out your own voice. Up until now, we've talked about how fear of judgment works, how it seeps into your decisions, how it shapes the way you walk, talk, and even dream. We've explored the Stoic mindset that turns you from a hostage of opinions into someone who moves freely through the noise. But now we're going to get practical, because understanding the philosophy is one thing. Living it is another. The Stoic escape plan is a cycle, not a one-time checklist. You don't graduate from caring what people think. You just get better at navigating it. Here's how you start. Step 1. Awareness without panic. Before you can break the chains, you have to see them. The next time you hesitate before speaking, wearing, or or doing something, pause and ask, am I worried about how this will be perceived? Don't judge yourself for it. Don't start a mental war, just notice it. The Stoics were masters of observation before intervention. Step 2. Perspective shift. When you catch yourself fearing judgment, zoom out. Ask, will this opinion matter in 5 years? Will this person even remember what I said in a month? Most of the time, the answer is a laughable no. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that people's opinions fade faster than footprints in sand. Step 3. Exposure training. Avoidance keeps fear alive, so you intentionally put yourself in small situations where judgment might happen, where the outfit you like but think is too bold. Share that idea with your team. Post that thought online. The aim isn't to be reckless, it's to condition your mind to survive and eventually thrive. Step 4. The inner citadel ritual. Every day, do something that strengthens your mental walls. Journal about a criticism you received and reframe it. Meditate and visualize letting opinions pass through you like wind through open hands. Read a passage from Epictetus or Seneca that reminds you of your autonomy. Small, daily reps turn philosophy into instinct. Step 5. Debrief without self-destruction. When judgment happens, and it will, don't spiral into overanalysis. Ask yourself, was there something constructive in what was said? If yes, take it. If no, drop it. The Stoics saw opinions like gifts. You could accept them or leave them unopened. Here's the thing. If you run this cycle over and over, something beautiful happens. Fear of judgment doesn't vanish, but it becomes background noise, a soft static you can tune out when you need to. The key is repetition. The mind learns through doing, through exposure, reflection, and reframing. Every day you run the plan. You make it harder for fear to dictate your moves, and one day, you'll look back at something you just did. Maybe you spoke up in a crowded room or posted a piece of your truth online, and you'll realize you didn't think twice about it. That's the Stoic escape plan at work, not as a theory, but as a way of living. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you recognizes that fear of judgment has been living rent-free in your mind. It's been dictating your choices quietly, like a shadow pulling invisible strings. You felt it, that tightness in your chest before you speak, that little mental calculation. Will they think this is stupid? That moment you shrink your dream down to a safer size, so it doesn't draw too much attention. The Stoics would tell you, this is no way to live, because every time you surrender to that fear, you trade a piece of yourself for the comfort of approval, and the cost is always higher than you think. Imagine, for a moment, that you lived one single day without caring about judgment. You'd wear what you want, say what you mean. Take that step you've been overthinking for months. Now multiply that one day by a lifetime. That's the freedom the Stoics are offering you. But here's the catch. Freedom is not given. It's taken. Every time you choose action over approval. Every time you anchor yourself to your values instead of someone's opinion, you're taking back what's yours. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that even emperors die and are forgotten. If the world will forget its rulers, what sense does it make to obsess over the passing opinions of strangers? And here's where it gets real. One day, you won't have time left. The dreams you shelved, the words you swallowed, the paths you avoided because of what they might say, they'll all be gone. The window will close, and judgment will have won without lifting a finger. But not you. Not if you start now. Not if you take the Stoic escape plan and run it daily. Not if you stop waiting for the fear to disappear before you act. Courage is never the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear sit in the driver's seat. So here's the challenge. Subscribe to this channel so you can always get notified of more practical videos like this. This week, do one thing you've been avoiding because of judgment, big or small, and don't explain it. Don't justify it. Don't wait for applause. Just do it because it's yours to do. And when you feel that knot in your stomach, that urge to retreat, remember this. The opinions you fear today will be dust tomorrow, but the life you build by ignoring them will be yours forever. Live without the chains, because you were never meant to be owned by them.